Hi, I'm Karen Spencer, IAWP Certified Wellness Coach and Certified Mind-Body Eating Coach. Today, I want to share some thoughts around our relationship with food, why it's important, and 2 beliefs you should let go of so you can begin to change how you relate to food. Now, I think one of the most important aspects of food isn't about the calories, macros, or vitamin and mineral content. Although, if you think about it, trying to get those things just right is sometimes where we spend most of our time. Now, I'm not saying that straight up nutrition isn't important. Of course, nutrition is important, but it's the relationship we have with food that really makes the rest of nutrition even possible. We spend so much time worrying about what and how much we're eating that I think sometimes we lose sight of the bigger picture. I promise you, what you eat and how much you eat will be harder than it needs to be if your relationship with food is suffering. So what should this all look like? Well, first of all, I'm not sure there is such a thing as a perfect relationship with food, so we can really let that go. But I do think there is a healthy relationship with food. Now, of course, that will likely look a bit different for each person and can really change for a given person, even based on where they are in life. But when you don't have a healthy relationship with food, you find yourself relying on advice like get all the trigger foods out of your house, or you just need more willpower. But I think a much more sustainable strategy is to actually remove some of the emotional charge that food has, so it's not a constant battle. Now, in general, food should be a welcome part of our world. I think a good goal for us all is that we should be able to trust ourselves around food. It should take up an appropriate amount of space in our life and not be something that we constantly obsess over. And yes, we should be able to enjoy food, receive pleasure, and even comfort from it. Now, of course, it shouldn't be our main source, our only source of entertainment or stress relief, but that doesn't mean we aren't allowed to enjoy it. So if you are someone that has been on multiple diets, or you've had long-term challenges around food and weight, the answer isn't yet another diet. I think the answer is to get your relationship with food in a good place. Once that's done, any nutritional tweaks then that you decide to make will come from a much better place, will likely be more sustainable, realistic, and will actually be done with the right intent. So if you're listening to this and it sounds familiar, where do you actually begin? Well, here are two of the top toxic beliefs that I think you should let go of in order to improve your relationship with food. The first toxic belief is that food is the enemy. Now, there's a lot of marketing dollars spent by companies to convince you that food is the enemy and our appetites are to be controlled at all costs. But food is here to nourish us, and trying to live your life not aligned with that basic fact puts you at battle with yourself multiple times a day. And being at battle with yourself is no way to live and is not going to be enjoyable or sustainable. The answer to your long-term struggles with food isn't to keep struggling with food. Constantly believing that food is the enemy, yet actually needing it to survive, can activate a stress response, and even a low-level stress response multiple times a day, like every time we eat, that's going to take its toll in a number of ways. In some cases, I think the stress we experience over what we are eating can be just as harmful as the food itself. So be willing to look at how you relate to food and discover where you can even lighten up your approach to food a little bit, especially if you're someone that's constantly controlling it. Where can you begin to enjoy it and really experience it? Even a few deep breaths before eating can at least help us to feel relaxed with the experience of eating, and that's going to lead to a much more sustainable strategy. Another toxic belief that I see with a lot of my clients is believing that your struggle with food is 100% about food. Now, this is especially the case for things like if you're constantly obsessing about food, or feeling compulsive around food, or even if most of your eating isn't due to physical hunger, but is done to fill up some other need. You really have to be willing to recognize that food isn't the problem here. It's possible that food has become the solution to an entirely different problem. The relationship we have with food can reflect something else that's going on in our life. So we really have to zoom out and look at the bigger picture, get really curious about what else is going on. Now, really it takes more. The food certainly does nourish us, but it takes much more than food to truly, truly nourish us. We're also nourished by many other elements of our life. Things such as relationships, meaningful work. So meaningful work could be career, volunteer work, or both. Our attitude about money and finances, spirituality, our mindset, how we view ourselves and the world around us. And then lastly, our purpose. So being in touch with what's really important to us. When something is missing from one of those elements, food can become a symbolic substitute for the nourishment that we're really seeking. Now, the problem becomes the more we use this symbolic substitute, the more we become disconnected from what was the true need. And then we lose sight of what we really need, and then we develop a complicated relationship with food. Now, I realize each of these are big topics, and they're not going to be solved in a few minutes on a video. We aren't trying to completely solve them here. My goal is, if you are someone that is frustrated with spending an inordinate amount of time and energy going from diet to diet, you've been trying everything to control your food for as long as you remember, I want you to consider these other elements of your life. So before you go on another diet and double down, yet again on trying to restrict your food, consider these larger elements of your life. When you heard that list, when I ran through the list, was there one thing that kind of poked at you a little bit and felt like maybe it could use some attention? Consider making that your focus. In my experience, when we pay attention to these other elements, those things that truly nourish us, the need to numb out or rely on food slowly fades away. Now, I think the way to get free from the craziness around food is really to pay attention to the rest of your life. Now it's your turn. So as much as I like sharing this message, I don't share it just to share it. I share it because I want you to take something here and apply it to your situation. So see where you can think about making a shift in your relationship to food. We covered a couple of ways to do that. Not thinking of food as the constant enemy, and taking stock with those other elements of your life and see if something else is trying to get your attention. I want you to now consider, what would it be like to at least try one of those things out? Really picture yourself taking that action. Think about what it would look like. What would you want the outcome to be? What other areas of your life do you think would be impacted if you improved your relationship with food? So really think about those things as you take that next step. Thank you so much for watching. And if you know someone that could benefit from this message, please go ahead and share this video.